Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Varney Marugan, and I am the Senior Director of the Global Initiative on Health and the Economy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, where our purpose is really to spotlight the unique value of the private sector and advocate for investment in public health as a means to directly drive economic resiliency and growth. And data has shown that investment in women's health in particular has proven to really be a best buy for economic development. This is, of course, due to women's longer lifespan, their central role in families and societies, and the fact that they represent over 70% of the global health workforce. And this afternoon, I am very privileged to be joined by Michael Anakin, the Chief Executive Officer at mcgee Women's Research Institute and Foundation, as well as Charlotte Simonelli, the Chief Financial Officer at Realogy. And so with that, let's dive right in with the first question. And no matter where you are in the globe, women strengthen communities. When women are healthy, the community is healthy. So Michael, can you tell us a bit more about how mcgee prioritizes women's health?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Varney. And first, I'd like to say I've been watching all day here, and the programming has been excellent. So I guess I would be one of those male champions that we talk about. But I'm happy to be that, and I'd like to thank Realogy and Charlotte for everything that they do for us from the corporate side. But when we talk about women, we know that they're 50% of the future. But I think often what gets lost is they give birth to 100% of the future. I'm sorry, they're 50% of the current population, yet they give birth to 100% of the future. And so when we look at that and the power of that statement, we really need to understand that healthy mothers and healthy babies are critical to healthier societies and healthier communities moving forward. And at mcgee Women's Research Institute, we really take that, and we also look at the data that comes from what healthier grandmothers mean to grandchildren, or healthier females in the workforce mean to environments in the workforce or workforce culture. And so we really plan on the research portfolio that we have allows us to keep women healthy throughout their lifespan for those reasons. And I don't think as a society we realize that the field of women's health was started in the early 90s. So there's plenty of catch up to be done there. And one of the things that we look to do is to get a larger mouthpiece about what needs to happen moving forward to play catch up.
Thank you, Michael. That's quite the fact that the field of women's research only started in the 90s. Tanya, can you share a bit more about why Realogy is investing in women's health?
Absolutely. Enabling and advocating for women is something that we are super passionate about at Realogy. And in case you don't know the metrics around it, so female agents, real estate agents, we're in the real estate business. There's 65% of all agents are female. 70% of our company is female. 60% of our leadership team is female, and 36% of our board is female. So we are a highly female-centric company. And if you think about it, like what we do is put people in their home. That's our job, is to find homes for people and to help people sell homes. So making sure that women's health is advocated for is very important to us. And some of the things that we've done at Realogy, especially in the height of, sort of the transformation during COVID, we've moved to a predominantly virtual workforce. And I know the struggles that a lot of women, mothers, caregivers, all those entities faced during COVID. I mean, we became sort of like part-time teachers at home too. And so the fact that folks could work virtually, and now it's a permanent structure for us, it enables them to have better sort of work-life fit. There's no such thing as balance. I don't believe that there is such a thing as balance, but if you're able to, because you're on a Zoom call, then you can put something on hold for 10 minutes to take care of something that, your child or your aged parent needs help with. And then as far as also like just for myself personally, I've been able to sneak in like 2 workouts a day because I'm not in the car anymore during my commute. And that has definitely made me healthier. Some folks, I think have gone the other way and have like, maybe put on the COVID 20, not the freshman 20, it's the COVID 20, but I think it's a choice. And we're trying to give not only our workforce, but also agents choice and how to be more productive, how to work more virtually so they can find ways to fit, whether it's their own personal health or the health of someone they're caring for as a priority as well.
Thank you, Charlotte. It's really compelling. Question for you both. What role do you think the business community should play in women's health? I know you've both touched on this a little bit as well already. Michael, would you like to go first?
Sure. And I think, the business community could serve as a couple of things. First and foremost, I think the business community can be a mouthpiece for what's going on at the Research Institute here. I know that our corporate partners help us get the word out to their communities, not only their local communities, but also their customer bases and their employee groups. Through their employee resource groups, they have a better understanding of what's available in women's health. Oftentimes, healthcare is delivered locally, but innovation happens globally. And from Pittsburgh, we can impact lives around the globe of women. And without a mouthpiece to help us get the word out about what's available, a lot of those women will never see that innovation, or they won't see it fast enough. The other thing that the business community can help us do, again, with their social good efforts and their employee resource groups, they can help us to be able to talk about the importance of fundraising for women's health research. I think it's sort of taken for granted that the developments just happen and that the government funds a lot of this research, and they fund a great deal of it. But plenty of research, novel research, innovative research, things that are really game changers, they need to be funded with dollars that come outside of those government dollars. And we as a community need to focus on that. And I think the business community has really helped us do that in the past.
Thank you, Michael. Charlotte, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And what I would add too is, physical health is important, but there's also mental health, there's financial health. I'm the chair of our women's ERG. I just took on that role recently at Realogy, and we offer monthly programs, and they're tailored. And of course, men can attend as well, but obviously we're a women's ERG, and they're tailored to help with the subjects that are most important to our employees as it is. So there's a lot of interest actually in financial health, and so we run programs for them to enable them to make sure that they're planning well for their retirement. And then on the benefits side, making sure that our benefits are actually tailored to what women need as well. So I think that's an internal lens, but I completely agree with Michael that, I think the business community does have a responsibility. It's apparent to me as a woman that, women's health has only been taken seriously since the late 90s, because there is a lot of catch up to do. And I believe strongly that we do all have to action on it. So I'm very passionate about it.
Couldn't agree more, and certainly sounds like there's a role for communities across all sectors. So the pandemic has forced us all to reflect more on our personal health and well-being. And now Dr. Fauci has said the US has almost reached the end of the full-blown pandemic. How can we ensure that our focus on health remains beyond the pandemic? Charlotte, why don't we start with you first this time?
I think it's absolutely vital, right? So there's also folks post-pandemic that have like lingering impacts from COVID if they had COVID. And I think by now there's a vast majority of us that have had COVID at some point. So it's definitely even more important now post the pandemic to prioritize your health. And I think part of that is education. I think, getting the word out. A lot of folks that had impacts during COVID, whether it be their mental health or whether it be their physical health, they need to understand that they're not alone. And half of the battle is just, seeking help or seeking education or understanding. And then for industries and businesses where, the work environment is different and more flexible, it's just it's affording people different opportunities, like the opportunities I have to prioritize, working out and doing such. But we need to make sure that people actually continue doing that. And that's, as leaders, you sort of have to role model. Like, you have to say, oh, let's do a walking meeting, or, I'm going to take a break at 5 because that's my time to work out. We have to role model it so that all of the folks that work for us understand that it's not only accepted, it's actually encouraged.
Absolutely. Michael, your thoughts on how we remain focused on health?
Yeah, I think Charlotte's point about the increased emphasis we have on our individual health is a critical one. I think this made us think about that. I think we need to pay attention to our bodies. I think we need to have conversations with our doctors, especially as women. I think we have to advocate for ourselves in the doctor's office a little bit more. We as a health system are starting to learn how to better listen to communities. When we talk about healthcare disparities, we study the differences between men and women pretty significantly. We also study the differences between different cohorts of women and how different cohorts of women may be impacted differently by certain diseases. And so I think it's important to understand that as individuals, we have to take our health seriously and we have to be our own advocate. I think the other thing to continue to think about is that healthcare research doesn't just come and go. We were able to develop a vaccine very quickly because we had this cadre of basic research to be able to build on that was 15 or 20 years old. And without that basic research that had been the foundation for many of the things that we're seeing really accelerate this pandemic and accelerate the pandemic portion of this COVID-19 disease, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So at the end of the day, I think we always have to have an eye on the future. And oftentimes people wait until something impacts them before they worry about it. But we have to begin to be proactive, whether it be proactive with our own health by exercising, eating right, taking the proper steps to get on regular care regimens, or whether it be proactive with community or global health by doing the right things, investing in the research, investing in the infrastructure available to make health equity important across the globe. I think those are the things that we as society have to continue to do that the pandemic has taught us. Without that, we could be in trouble very quickly when the next pandemic comes around. If we don't have the answers and we don't have a place to go to quickly develop the answers, then the pain is much broader.
Thank you, Michael. And it does feel like we are in a revolving door of global crises these days. But as you both mentioned, kind of a sustained focus on women's health remains critically important throughout. So thank you both very much for your insights in this discussion, and especially thank you for continuing to focus on this in your work. And with that, we'll move on to the next panel.
Thank you, Varney, and thank you, Charlotte.
Thanks both.